Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I've asked Jeneta Owens to come and chat to us today. She's the Managing Director of Godolphin Resources. The ASX code is GRL. Hot off the back of the RIU Resources Conference that was held in Sydney last week, Jeneta's booth was very busy. And so I stopped by and I said, I think we need to have a chat and let all of you out there know just what they're up to. They're out there in the Lachlan Fold Belt of New South Wales, but boy, oh boy, they didn't let the wet weather stop them. They have been rapidly advancing some projects out there. So I want to hear more about it. Jeneta, great to see you. Thanks for joining me on the channel.
Well, thanks, Kerry, for having us on. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so first time we've had you on the channel, give us a brief overview to our audience out there of who are Godolphin Resources.
So Godolphin Resources are a New South Wales-based exploration company. We have a number of copper and gold projects in the Lachlan Fold Belt, and most recently we have taken on a rare earth project in the Lachlan Fold Belt also, quite close to our tenements there near Orange.
Now, I did remember you as that sort of copper gold projects, and when we chatted at the conference, you talked about the rare earths. And I found it really interesting, but I wonder, is that just because rare earths, everyone's talking about rare earths and that's why you jumped in there? I just want to get the strategy behind it.
Yeah, look, and people could come to that conclusion, Kerry, because, you know, I noticed at the RIU, there were a lot of companies that were, you know, advertising they drilled a hole that, you know, intersected rare earths. But
yeah.
No, that's not what happened. We actually have a very large tenement package in the Lachlan Fold Belt, and many people may know that Australian Strategic Materials, which is a rare earth project near Dubbo, have a very large project there. And our tenement package is actually only 7 kilometres from that project. So, you know, we're in the business of creating value for shareholders, and we, you know, we've got great copper and gold projects, but for a little bit of time, not just us, but many of the other companies operating in the Lachlan Fold Belt weren't getting a lot of love in the market from those. So, you know, we wanted to look inside our own tenement package and see if there's something else we could leverage. Is there something we were overlooking, and really do a good job of exploring our own ground. And we were doing that, and guess what? We didn't come up with anything. But while we were doing that, we actually were exposed to the Nurraburra project. And this was a rare earth project that had some work done on it by a previous explorer back in the early 2000s. And it had basically been forgotten about as and looked on as a, you know, a low grade resource. And it's within our territory. It's, you know, ground that we know. So we thought, yeah, let's have a look at this data and see whether it's something we could get involved with. And really the data spoke for itself. We could see some great opportunities of how we could rapidly advance this project and ultimately create value for our shareholders. So we jumped on board.
You just said something which piqued my interest, rapidly advance, because a lot of rare earth projects, I mean, people out there sometimes don't understand. You don't turn a copper project on by turning a tap on. It takes a lot of time and energy and funds, etc. How do you look at Nurraburra as a rare earth project? How can you rapidly advance that? What makes it different that you are able to do that?
Well, pretty much because it sits in the clays. It's not a hard rock source. So there's two grand categories of rare earth resources. So one is a hard rock resource where the rare earths are hosted inside the hard rock itself, and the other one is where it's been released through weathering over time and they actually sit on the outside of clay particles. And that's the type of project that we thought Nurraburra had the potential to be, because the resource that the previous explorers had tried to put together was based on the Dubbo model, so a hard rock model, but they'd never actually intersected the hard rock. All the drilling had actually finished in the clays, and they had rare earths in the clays, and we were like, wow, this has the potential to be, you know, an ionic style clay hosted rare earth project. But we just needed to do the work, and we knew that we could do that quite rapidly, and it just needed to be drilled and to find a new resource and a bit of baseline metallurgical test work to see whether it can leach or not. And we've done that. We've completed that in the last 12 months, Kerry.
Well, okay, so for those of you just explained that there's hard rock and there's clays. I'm assuming that with clay, you don't have to drill and blast, and potentially that's why you can advance it more rapidly. Yeah. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. So when you get to mining, this is the beauty of these types of deposits, right? You don't have to drill and blast. You can scrape it up with those scrapers that they use to make roads. You can dig it up with an excavator. You don't have to use all of those expensive methods of, explosives and all of those kinds of things. It's really a much simpler process. You do still need to have some kind of infrastructure for actually doing the metallurgy and building a plant. But again, it's not billions of dollars like the hard rock guys. This for us is, maybe 100 million. It's in the millions. It's not the billions, which is really why, we can rapidly advance this, because CapEx is going to be easier to source.
Okay, so talk to us about rapidly advanced. So what is it? What have you got your hands on? You said that it was looked at in the early 2000s, but they were looking more at hard rock. Is that what you were saying?
Well, they based their model on a hard rock deposit, but they hadn't actually drilled the hard rock. So what we did was go in and drill diamond drilling, and we were able to drill through the whole weathered profile, through all those clays, into the hard rock and test whether there was a hard rock source. Turns out the hard rock is actually enriched in rare earths, but not enough to be a hard rock mine. But the beauty of that is that all of the value lies in the clays above, which means that we can actually get to that much sooner. We don't have to have a big mine plan of actually taking all of that clay away and stockpiling it somewhere to get to the hard rock. So it's all of those sorts of things, Kerry. Not only that, New South Wales has been, the government in New South Wales has been really trying to advance these types of projects and get mining underway much sooner and promoting mining. So they've put a lot of money on the table to help with infrastructure projects, and also studies to assist with like metallurgical studies or environmental studies that they co-fund. And now that we have an indicated resource there, we can actually apply for some of that co-funding as well.
Okay, so this is an indicated resource, not just inferred. So that means you're further down what I call the food chain. Talk to us about, I'm speaking to you now in sort of May, mid to late May. What's the news flow going forward? Is all the focus on this rare earths? Because I want to touch a little bit on copper gold, but is this where the majority of your focus is? And do you think this is where the majority of the value for shareholders will be?
Look, we do, and the main reason is because we do feel that we can get this up and running sooner than a hard rock mine for our copper and gold, and we can create value and cash flow in the company to then be able to explore and advance our copper and gold projects. So that's the overall strategy, I guess, from a high level perspective. But you're correct, Kerry. We really do want to work with the rare earth project. We do have now a 50% of our 94 million tonnes is actually indicated. And that was with our maiden resource. So we've gone from having no resource to having a large, quite impressive resource at 94.9 million tonnes at 739 ppm TREO. Included in that is also a 20 million tonne high-grade portion that's over 1,000 ppm TREO, which we see as a real kickstart for that mining study that we were talking about. Now, again, we have also highlighted that this resource is open, so we haven't found the edges of it. So we can actually do some additional drilling. And there's one section in the resource that we couldn't get to last year to drill with diamond. So the historical drilling that informs the resource is actually quite shallow. And if we drill in that area, we know that the modelled layer of the higher grade ore actually goes down and sits on the top of the bedrock. So by drilling in there, Kerry, we're going to be able to add tonnes and grades really, really rapidly with just a few diamond holes. So that is really important for us, because that will tip us over that 100 million tonne mark without any dramas at all. Then we actually need to do a little bit more metallurgy. So we've done some that says, yes, this will leach under these certain conditions. And in fact, we actually got some of these amazing results that probably better than any of the others I've seen going around again. We got 92% recovery of the magnetic minerals. So that's the four important minerals that have very long names, and most of us can't pronounce them. I do try to at times.
So sorry, just to stop you for a second there. So there's rare earth projects, and a lot of people don't understand them, but the most important thing is to have those those 4 important ones for the magnets. Is that, and that's what yours has got? Is that right?
Yeah, so yes, you're right, because when you think about a copper or gold project, there's one element on the periodic table. It's copper or it's gold.
Yeah.
You might have a polymetallic that has a few more, but with rare earth, it's a basket. It's like 15 elements, and generally plus yttrium as well. So we're talking about 16 individual elements that each individual rare earth project will have different levels of all of those. And some of them are worth a bit of money and some aren't worth that much at all. So it's really important to have those 4 magnet minerals. The permanent magnets are used in technologies such as EV vehicles, but not only that, a lot of people don't realise that they're actually used in all GPS devices. So if you think, your mobile phone, or anything that has a location service, your GPS in your car, they all need these particular elements within to make those magnets. So really important. There's a big growth market. All of the numbers say that we're not going to have enough of this in a few years' time. So it's very important to make sure that we have those, and they do form a part of this resource. And as I mentioned, we under one of our testing conditions we were able to achieve 92% recovery of these specific 4 magnet minerals. So that's pretty exciting.
As a scientist, because you've seen, there are, as I said before, a lot of rare earth projects. Do you consider that this particular one, has it surprised you to the upside? And how confident are you? Look, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is early stages, but they are rapidly advancing it. But we haven't got to scoping study. We'll talk about that in a minute. But how confident are you that this is a pretty important resource that you've got there?
Look, I'm really confident. We were surprised at some of the results that we got, like getting 92% recovery of those 4 important elements was very surprising. Even being able to get that resource and that indicated resource out on our first go was amazing. I think the location for us is really important. We're also in an area that has mining, so they're comfortable with mining.
Yeah, good point.
It's in the wheat belt, or they crop barley and grow some sheep where we are. We're not in wine country, which is again a really important aspect to this project. We have a bitumen road that runs up the side of the project. There's not many projects out there.
Yeah,
exactly, that have that. There's so much infrastructure around. A major rail line is only 5 kilometres away. High voltage power lines are 5 kilometres away. We really are positioned in the best space to actually push this project forward from an infrastructure perspective. But from, when you get back to the basics of a project, has it got enough legs to become a mine? Absolutely. We haven't found, we haven't defined the entire resource. We haven't actually focused on trying to find the highest grades within this resource as yet. And that will be the next step. So we are going to do in the next 12 months a little bit more drilling to make the resource a bit bigger. We're going to try and focus in and hone in on some of those higher grade areas of those 4 important key elements, and start a scoping, a mining scoping study, because it's really important that we keep going forward if we want to get this up to a mine sooner rather than later.
Jeneta, you've got a market cap of about 8 million. I don't think the market's cottoned on to what you've got your hands on. Would you agree? And look, I say that with all due respect, but I'm just wondering whether the market is still focused on your copper gold projects, which, by the way, you're not forgetting about those. But I think what you're saying to me, what I'm getting from you, is that this rare earth project, you said, in 12 months, you've defined a JORC compliant resource. This is big, could be a lot bigger. Do you think the market understands exactly what you've got your hands on, and the fact that this is, and how rapidly you've advanced it?
That's right. And I think they've just missed it, Kerry. The project is phenomenal. I think anyone would love to have this project.
Yeah.
We have advanced it a lot in the last 12 months, and we expect to continue doing that. That is our aim. But, you talk about the value of the company, the value of this project alone, would warrant a much higher market cap.
Yeah.
But when we look at our copper and gold projects, our market cap doesn't even reflect those. For a junior explorer, we've got 3 different MREs, so mineral resource estimates over 3 different projects. We've got 519 kilo ounces of gold in our inventory. Most of those are at Lewis Ponds. There's nearly $1 billion worth of gold in the ground at Lewis Ponds.
Just tell me about Lewis Ponds. Sorry, you've got 3 projects with mineral resource estimates on them. Let's just go through those. Just give me Lewis Ponds, because we don't have a lot of time, but give me Lewis Ponds.
So Lewis Ponds is a polymetallic, but it's focused on a gold resource. So it's 6.2 million tonnes at 2 grams per tonne gold. Plus it's got silver, plus it's got lead, plus it's got zinc and a bit of copper. And again, we've identified potential expansion. So we've been able to do some geophysics and some surface geochemistry and to find that there's, looks like it continues to the north. We've never found the base of it. We've actually got lenses to the west that aren't included in the current resource. And we've got giant big holes in our resource that just haven't been drilled. So this is just an opportunity to make this thing bigger. And it's in, a great jurisdiction. It's over the hills from Orange and not that far away. Brilliant project. We've also got Yeovil, which has it's a porphyry style project, and there's a mineral resource estimate there of 12.8 million tonnes of copper. That's a 0.38 copper and 1.4 gold. And again, a great project. But what's really exciting about Yeovil is, and that's very important in the Lachlan Fold Belt, because all of the other operating mines have this, is that there's multiple occurrences of copper in a small area. So we've got the Yeovil deposit, but then just to the north we've got Cyclops, and we drilled that last year and intersected some really, hugely, like over 1% copper grades. It was phenomenal over small distances. But we actually have done some other groundwork on that since then, and we've defined a drilling plan to try and find these structural zones to where we might find a whole bunch more of that high-grade copper. And we actually applied for a government grant for that project and were successful. So the government sees the value in that project as well. We've got Yeovil East, which is, we're working up, and it looks like that's got drill-ready targets already. And we've got Goodrich, which was a historical mine. The old timers were mining oxide copper at surface, and we've again identified that these zones of copper that have never been followed up. So that's 3 projects on the one project outside of the main project. So 3 prospects. There's just copper everywhere there.
Yeah,
great, from a geologist perspective, it's just the best place in the world.
Well, you certainly got your hands full. Scoping study on Nurraburra before we start to wrap it up. When do you think that's going to be ready?
Well, we want to kick that off at the end of the year. And we're saying the end of the year because we have to have a bit more metallurgy to feed into that scoping study. But that's all. So we'll be reliant on those results. And obviously we do more drilling, we'll update the MRE at that point as well. So that will all feed in and be a part of that scoping study. So, really excited about that because I know it's going to be positive.
Well, I think you've got your hands on a number of very interesting projects, and that's why I love bringing these to the attention of our audience, ladies and gentlemen. Again, as I said at the start, look, this is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own research or pick up the phone. I've always said this to you guys. Pick up the phone and speak to the people that are running the projects and ask the questions that perhaps I haven't asked today. But as I said at the beginning, the ASX code is GRL. I think it's flown a little bit under the radar. And when I was talking to Jeneta, there was a lot of interest at the conference. And I thought, all right, not sure that the market understands what she's got her hands on. So I hope we've unpacked a little bit of that for you today. But Jeneta, let's wrap it up. Give me 3 reasons why you think people should be sitting up and taking notice of Godolphin Resources right now.
Yeah, well, we have spoken a lot today, Kerry, but I think really the 3 things to take home are the fact that, Godolphin rapidly advanced projects. We really have taken this project in 12 months. We've defined a resource and a great resource at that. We've been able to also identify within that resource contains 4 of the important magnet elements that are vitally important. It's clay hosted. This thing is going to be a mine. That's amazing. The other thing really is, with a market cap of our $8 million or thereabouts, we've got this large 94 million tonne resource, you know, and that doesn't even include our copper and gold projects. So get on it.
The times are going to be exciting in 2023 for Godolphin Resources, ladies and gentlemen. Jeneta Owens, thank you so much for joining me on Making Money Matter, and we look forward to some updates as we go throughout the year.
Great. Thanks very much, Kerry.